It's a scene that sounds all too familiar to many Americans. A young, charismatic leader stands amidst his countrymen when suddenly a shot rings out. He slumps forward. A large caliber projectile has pierced his skull and killed him instantly. But where had this shot come from? Had it come from the grassy hill, or had it come from a nearby building? Was he killed by a foreign power, or was this an assassination conspiracy from within? Charles XII could easily be called the John F. Kennedy of Sweden, because the two share many things in common. Most notably, their similar demise. But there would be no Zapruder film to help solve this mystery, which is why the death of this chief of state remains an enigma. Let's take a look at the life and reign of this unique monarch, as well as the mysterious circumstances surrounding his death. Perhaps with a few tips from CSI and, dare I say it, the use of a little forensics, we can help clear up this moment in history and bring a cold case to a close. In December of 1697, Prince Charles XII ascended to the Swedish throne at the young age of 15. Hoping to capitalize on their adversaries' youth and inexperience, a triple alliance of Sweden's most hated enemies, including Denmark and Russia, attacked the Swedish Empire, initiating the Great Northern War in 1700. But this young king would prove to be anything but naive. In less than 5 years, he had successfully subdued all of his adversaries with his military brilliance. It was during this time that the king's power reached legendary status. French writer Voltaire dubbed him the Lion of the North. Swedish legend suggested that the king was impervious to bullets. One specific story speaks of a simple cloth hat worn by the king, stopping the sharp force of a steel sword. Yet another story speaks of the king often reaching down, removing his boots, and pouring out all the bullets that had struck him, but failed to do any real damage. With the full confidence of his people, Charles overestimated the power of his empire and made a mistake that would be repeated by Napoleon in the 19th century and Hitler in the 20th. He chose to invade Russia, where his army was probably decimated. The great Lion of the North was forced to flee. Desperate to maintain his military power, he chose to invade Norway, which would prove to be another fatal move. On December 30th of 1718, King Charles XII was murdered at age 36. But how exactly did it happen? Let's take a look at the case file. Unfortunately, crime scene investigation of the 18th century was rather lacking. What we do know was that our victim was killed while conducting routine trench inspections during the siege of the Norwegian fortress of Frederiksholm. Though it seems likely that the king would have been killed by a bullet or shard coming from the fortress, many have tried to prove that the king was in fact killed by one of his own men, tired of the unending war he waged. Chief suspect in the king's death is Frederick I, prince and successor to the throne of Sweden. Described as acting particularly suspiciously on the day in question, Frederick certainly stood to gain from the death of Charles. Despite the age of this particular cold case, there is still a great deal of evidence. The king's mummified and embalmed body has been exhumed for autopsy 3 times, most recently in 1970. However, each of these studies has yielded contrary results, suggesting that the king could have been killed from Norwegian Frederiksholm on the left, or the Swedish trenches on the right. One thing they do agree on is the mysterious lack of any lead splinters one would expect to find in the skull. Here again we turn to Swedish folklore. As it was believed that the king could not be harmed by ordinary gunfire, it stands to reason that an assassin would not choose to use a traditional bullet. One specific Swedish legend states that the king was killed by a button off his own coat loaded into a pistol. Another facet of this legend is that a Swedish soldier found the bullet button on the field of battle, picked it up, and brought it home as a memento until he threw it into a stone quarry. This outlandish tale is almost as hard to believe as the idea of a king who cannot be shot. However, more than 200 years later, we have a break in the case. In 1932, in a Swedish stone quarry, researchers discover an object described as 2 half-spheres of brass filled with lead and soldered together into a ball with a protruding loop that testifies to its original use as a button. This object is flattened on one side, evidence of a forceful collision with the hard surface. Another interesting fact, the diameter of this object closely matches that of the gaping hole in King Charles's tricorner hat. But was this the bullet button that killed the king? For these answers, we turn to recent forensic evidence. DNA testing compared fragmentary blood traces on the bullet button to a pair of bloody gloves worn by the king on the day of his death. Remarkably, it's a match. But was this the murder weapon or simply an article of his clothing? We still can't be sure. Maybe it was both. Unfortunately, we are not able to fully close this cold case, and the death of King Charles XII still remains a fascinating mystery centuries after it occurred. Evidence for killer and weapon aren't entirely conclusive, but they still offer intrigue. Like John F. Kennedy, Charles XII will be remembered for what he did in life and will not soon be forgotten. But his death remains to this day one of the most enigmatic moments in history.
All right, two more to go. All right. Our next category is an interesting one because it sort of blurs the line between speech and interp. Technically, it is a speech category because the contestant is required to write an original speech. However, each year the category committee defines different occasions in real life where one might be called upon to write a speech. And you have to imagine that you are a person in that situation and write a speech that would be fitting. For example, some of the occasions might be a wedding speech or a graduation ceremony. So you might pick wedding speech and write about if you were to take the category seriously. You might imagine your own sibling's wedding and what you might say at their wedding. Some people also kind of take the category humorously. You might imagine yourself to be Mr. Potato Head, speaking at the wedding between G.I. Joe and Barbie. Right? I'll let you guess which approach Kayla decided to go with. So presenting her special occasion, here is Kayla. You know, Kayla really surprised me this year. She started out the season doing play acting, which you saw already, and Farrago, which you'll notice is not on the program. And after a couple weeks, she came to me and said, you know what, Farrago, it's just not fun enough. And so she made the very ambitious decision to prepare a third category and write a special occasion speech. A decision that I wasn't terribly fond of. But she was right. She was right. She wrote a really great speech, and her first tournament out, she placed second, and she's been doing really well with it all season. And I know I've said this a lot tonight, but I'm really going to be sad when she graduates. And it's been great having her on the team. So we're presenting her speech to foreign visitors. That's the occasion that she chose. Here's Kayla.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire flight crew, I'd like to thank you once again for flying Midwest Flight 111, nonstop service from LAX Los Angeles to Austin Straubel, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Please notice the captain has switched on the seatbelt indicator light, and we ask that you please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened as we are beginning our final descent. Estimated time of arrival is approximately 6 minutes. At this time, a representative from the Brown County Tourist Bureau would like to address those of you who might be visiting Wisconsin for the first time.
Wow, okay, thank you. Now, let's just get one thing straight, okay? You say Wisconsin, not West, whatever you were saying. If you go to a new place, you have to learn the language, right? Okay, let's try together. Wisconsin. Good. Now, people will be able to understand ya. Hello, my name is Mary Van Hubelhoven, and I'd like to welcome you California foreigners to Green Bay, home of Lambeau Field, the frozen tundra, and the Green Bay Packers. Now, are any of you visiting for the first time, or no? Okay, good. Well, let me just go over a few things you'll have to remember during your stay here. Now, I'm sure you're all very excited to get away from that smog and 80-degree heat jam out there in California. We do have plenty of fresh air here, but it can get a little chilly. We like to say the 4 seasons are almost winter, still winter, and road construction. Oh, lucky for you though, the temperatures are expected to get in the double digits this week. All the same, I hope you packed your long underwear. I also hope you packed your hats, mittens, scarves, boots, coats, and a regular supply of those little chemical things are magical. The important thing to remember is layers. Don't forget that, layers. And if you do decide to venture out of the big city, make sure your coat is blaze orange so you don't get shot. Now, if you'll be renting a car from the airport, there are a few things I have to warn you about once. I know you have all those fancy schmancy highways out there in LA, so you've probably never seen a real traffic jam in your lives. The roads do get pretty crazy around here during the rush hour. I wouldn't go anywhere near Highway 41 at 5:30. Or the stop and go lights on Lombardi Avenue are whole-grown way. Also, if you've never driven in the snow, it can be quite the experience. Your brakes probably won't work, so don't even try. Just steer around anything that gets in your way. Unless the roads are salted, of course. Then you should be good. Oh, that's right. We use salt for more than just boiled eggs and deer baiting. We also sprinkle it on the roads. Oh, and kitty litter's not just for Fluffy anymore either. You'll find we're full of little tricks like that around here. Now keep this in mind. We frown on hunting out of season, but anything you hit with your car, you can keep. Speaking of food, prepare your palate for a parade. That's all I have to say. We have almost anything you can imagine. Cheese curds, the squeakier the better. Fried cheese, grilled cheese, cheddar wurst, you name it, we've got it, and we'll serve it with beer. Oh, unless it's Friday, of course, then you'll want fish, but we serve beer with that too. Now let me recommend a few of my favorite restaurants. Let's see, there's Vince Lombardi's Steakhouse, Brett Favre's Steakhouse, Curly Lambo's Pub, and the Touchdown Club. Any of those will be good. If you're looking for a good time out, the Greater Green Bay area offers a variety of activities. We have 2 public libraries, 37 different bowling alleys, and over 9,600 bars, pubs, and taverns. How's that for a night out on the town? Every Tuesday is polka night over at the American Legion, and Lambeau Field Stadium tours leave the atrium every 15 minutes. Of course, those are sold out for the next 30 years. Oh, are any of you festival goers or no? Okay, good. Well, seeing as that it's winter, we are a little bit low on the community festivals, but we still do have a few. Let's see. Oh, there's Ice Fest out on Lake Winnebago, Snowfest over in Shawano, Winterfest in Sheboygan, oh, and Beer Fest in my brother-in-law's backyard. Oh, I'm only joking. But that's true. Okay. Well, that's about all I have for you. I do hope you enjoy your time in Green Bay. It's like my grandma said, come here once and you're never gonna want to leave. Oh, what's that? It's almost time for touchdown. We sure do know a lot about touchdowns around here, right? Okay. I guess I have to sit down now. As you'll be stepping off the plane, you'll all get a free t-shirt to commemorate your stay. It says, I went to Wisconsin and all I got was this lousy hangover. Here, let me show ya. It's a one-size-fits-all. Alrighty then, I'll be standing by in the terminal next to the bubbler if you have any questions. Thank you for coming.
Final presentation for the night will be solo acting. There are actually 2 solo acting categories. They have one for humorous and one for serious. Solo acting humorous, the goal there is to be funny. And that's usually accomplished by creating a variety of outlandish caricatures. In solo acting serious, we look for a little more genuine performance. Usually in solo acting serious, the performer will take on one character in a monologue. Carter has decided to really challenge himself with this piece. He's chosen a dialogue which requires him to not only deal with some very serious subject matter, but also give a realistic, genuine personality to 2 different characters. So performing one last time, presenting a cutting from the play Lonely Planet, here is Carter Touchet.
One day, I saw a chair here. I had no idea where it had come from. I looked at it. I sat in it. A chair. Nothing else. Carl? Yes? Where did this chair come from? It's a good chair, isn't it? A strong chair. I don't need a chair, Carl. This place is getting too cluttered as it is. A person could sit in it, Carl. Yes? We need to play our game. What game is that, Jody? Our game. The game we play. Names of child stars who were miserable in later life? No. The one where we tell the truth? Well, I don't want to play our game yet. I prefer to lie a bit longer. That's your choice, Carl. I got the chair at an auction. Did you? Yes, I did very well. I got it for a song. That's wonderful. It's a good chair, isn't it? I don't need a chair. Fine, I'll take it home with me. You live in a shoebox, Carl. You don't have any room for it. I'm knocking out a wall. This chair will look stunning. Can we play our game now, Carl? I have to go. I have plants to water. Have a good day, Jody. This is the way things go with Carl. I mean, I've probably known him as long as anyone. He was one of my first customers here. Browsed for a few hours and went home with a map of the Caribbean. Ever since then, he's been a fixture here. He has the energy of 8 and the patience of none. He is my friend. Jody and Carl are 2 gay men living during the AIDS crisis. Jody, the owner of a map store, keeps order in his life by denying his community. Carl copes with the disease by collecting chairs of his friends who have passed away. As the chairs start to pile up, Jody's powers of denial will be challenged, and he will be forced to face reality. Lonely Planet by Stephen Dietz. I am the bastard son of Richard Nixon, and I shall rule the world. The gods laugh at thy piteous posturing. What is I, knave, who hold the weapon, which shall open thy torso and send thou soul to hell? Beg for mercy. I beg of you, sir. Mercy. Darn phone. Jody's maps. Yes, just a second. For the... What is it, Carl? I'm needed at the museum. There's art to be restored. What kind of art, Carl? What kind of art is in need of restoring today? Old art, yeah. Some very old art needs restoring today. You're not going to restore art, are you, Carl? No. You're going to get more chairs. 3 of them. Is it still all right for me to store them here, Jody? I mean, this is the largest room I know of. You know that I keep them at my place. You know that, but it's so tiny and there's just no... Are they in the way? Yes. Be honest with me. More honest than yes? They're horribly in the way. They block aisles, customers trip over them. I mean, the first few were fine, Carl. They really were. But this is too much now. They are horribly, disastrously in the way. Is that clear? Yes. I'm glad we can be direct. Get rid of him, Carl. Bobby's dead, Jody! I'd known Bobby since I was 5. It was the first day of kindergarten, and I was playing on the swings before the first bell rang. A kid I'd never seen before walked up and started swinging right next to me. When the bell rang, he tugged on my coat and said, "What's your name?" I said, "Carl." He said, "I'm Bobby." I said, "Hi." He said, "Do you want to be best friends?" I said, "Okay." Then we went inside and became best friends for 25 years. Bobby's dead, Jody. I know this, do you? I've buried 30 people in 6 months. It's gotten to the point where I go to the memorial services to see who's still alive. I said, I know this. I don't think you do. I don't think you see any of it anymore. What do you want me to do? You want me to march up and down the streets shouting, my friends are dying and look how much I care? That does nothing, Carl. Nothing. That brings no one back. It changes nothing. It would change you. Make someone else your mission. I volunteer. I go help move these people's things out of their homes. And I can't stand the chairs. I can't stand all the empty chairs lying in empty rooms, draped in empty clothing. What does this do, Carl? Does it do something? It does for me. This is the thing, Jody. I'm just trying to value my life enough to not throw it into traffic. In the midst of this disease, I'm just trying to find the worth of me. This is who I am now, Jody. Been a good friend to me, Carl. Even when I've wanted to kill you. You're like the little brother I never wanted to have. Thanks. Can we play our game, Carl? Sure. I have to go out. I have to be tested. Well, you've been tested every 6 months for the past few... No, but you told me no! No. I'll look over things here. It'll be okay, Jody. Wait for me, Carl. I'm not going anywhere. And when you come back, we'll kick up our heels, put on Joe Cocker, get drunk, tell lies, and make promises we can't keep. It'll be great. I'll see you later, Carl. You will. They drew blood from my arm, and I left. I walked home the long way, past everything that seemed familiar, past everything that had a memory attached to it. I walked every day like that. And as I walked, I remembered. Yes, I'm calling for my test results. Jody. Yes, I'll hold. Yes, I'm here. Thanks. It's negative. Negative. Yes. How does it feel? Good? Yes? Yes. Did you find my chair, Jody? I did. It's a good chair, don't you think? Sturdy. It's a good chair, Carl. Will you keep my chair, Jody? I will. That would make me happy.
So we end on a happy note. That's all we have for you. Let's keep another round of applause to all our participants. So, thanks again for coming. if you're interested in joining the team next year, please do sign up. Also, please grab another cookie or bar or glass of water on your way out the door. I'll stick around if you have any questions, and thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you.